Hi everyone, my name is Sinéad Gortland. I'm part of OmniPro Corporate Consultants team, and today we're going to look at the Section 343 application to the District Court to extend your annual return. We're going to speak about this today because in recent days the CRO have been issuing notices and emails to agents, presenters, anyone who have the correspondence of regarding any late annual returns for companies. This is a type of email we haven't received since about 2020 when the involuntary strike-offs were paused with the CRO. So I imagine you have some clients who are reaching out to you having received these emails who have queries, or maybe you yourself have some late annual returns with some companies. Myself and the team do this daily. We've done over 300 successful applications. So we're just going to look at the process. We're going to look at the affidavit and then some FAQs as well regarding the Section 343 application. So what is a Section 343 application? This is if a company misses their annual return date. So if you miss it, you're automatically fined by the CRO, and that increases daily to a max point. And you also automatically lose your audit exemption for the 2 following years. Now, obviously, losing your audit exemption leads to high costs and fining fees as well that have to be paid. But there is an alternative if you don't want to go down this route. You can seek the Section 343 application to the District Court. And this is under Section 343 of the Companies Act 2014. And basically what this does is it extends your annual return date. So you have a late filing, you seek this application, and if it's successful, it extends your application to the date on the court order. So if the court order is granted, the company gets an extension to file this annual return, and it's whatever date is specified on the actual court order. And then you can file your return as normal up until that date. Your exemption will stand, and then the late fees will be squashed as well. All you'll have to do is pay the filing fee. So if you have one return that's being covered by the Section 343, it's going to be €20 for the B1. If you have multiple years, it could be up, you could have 2019, 2020, 2021, possibly even 2022 now. It'll be €20 per return, and you don't have to pay the late fees. So this can be sought as long as the company hasn't filed the annual return in question. So if you had a late return for 2020, for example, and you filed that return and now you don't want to have to do the audit or pay the late fees, unfortunately, you will have to do that because you filed that annual return. This is only for late returns where you're going to be extending them with the Section 343 application. So what is the actual process itself? You'll seek out a provider like ourselves here in OmniPro, and we will coordinate with you. We'll get all the information. There's an email or an order form that can go out, and we gather all the information. And then with the solicitor and barrister, we will draft your affidavit. So you can include extra items like exhibits. So you can have doctor's notes, letters from the agent or the accountant yourselves. If there's any other extra information that could be put in, we draft the affidavit, and then the director is the one who signs the affidavit. So let's just say, for instance, there was an issue on your side as an accountant, maybe you missed the annual return date. It won't be you signing the affidavit. It's always going to be the deponent director who's going to be signing. Once that's certified, it's sent off to the courts and it's lodged then, and you get a court date. Once the court sits, and as a reminder, no director, no agent has to be present at the day of the court. We will represent you with the solicitor and barrister. Once the court sits, you'll either find out if you were successful or not successful in the application. So tips on a good affidavit. So there's kind of good and bad reasons for an affidavit for a Section 343 application. We'll look at some of the better ones first. So this is the likes of if a director or the accountant were ill at the time. And if someone was ill, it would be even better if we could back that up with a medical cert, any information from the hospital or from a doctor that can be added as an exhibit. If there was a bereavement, again, on behalf of the director, maybe the agent or any family member, that might affect the reason why the company was late. With anything to do with bereavement, we do like to put notice from rip.ie attached onto the affidavit just to support it. More common as well is if there's been a change in the agent or the accountant. So maybe previously your client is with someone else, the return was missed for whatever reason. They are now with you. You can submit a letter saying that you're now the agent, and you'll make sure that they're going to be filing up to date. Was anyone under any undue stress? Was there something going on that might have resulted in the annual return going late? Again, this can be the director or the agents themselves. Was anyone a victim of a crime? That's also permitted. If there's a victim of a crime, is there any extra information we can pad out there with the exhibit as well? Was the agent engaged in good time? So whereas the agent themselves given sufficient time by the director to get everything up to date and submit the annual return. A reason that was very common over the last couple of years was COVID. Maybe someone was suffering from COVID, getting used to working from home, etc. And is this still a good reason? There's no quick answer to this, unfortunately. If someone was suffering from COVID and that was the reason why the return was missed, yes, again, you can put in the letter and you can confirm that that person had COVID and that's why it would fall under the illness section. If it's the likes of the company wasn't organised or there was working from home issues, given that we're so far into the pandemic now, that reason isn't as suitable with the judges. You could still submit it and see would it be accepted, but we would just give a warning that it may not be as beneficial to the company to go down that route for the Section 343 applications. With anything for the affidavits, you want to make sure you're giving a very detailed background. So how many employees, what does the company do, how long has it been in operation, what kind of activities it involved in, what area of the country is this happening in, anything just to kind of pad out and give the judges as much detail as possible about your application. Again, another way to do it is how will you ensure that you don't seek a late application again? So are you changing your processes internally? Are other people going to be trained in on how to do this? Obviously, if it's the likes of bereavement or illness, you don't have to give that information. If the company ever sought a Section 343 application before, or if they're even late before and you paid the late fees and did the auditing, do flag that because the judges will be able to see the company history. And then, as I said, consider any exhibits. So you've got doctor's notes, letters from the agents, letters from the accountants. We use hospital notes, anything that can just pad out the exhibit. Make sure to give it all over, and then it'll be up to ourselves and the solicitor and barrister if we decide to include that into the actual application. So we'll look at some FAQs about the Section 343 applications that we get across our desk every day. So how long does the process take? It used to be quite a simple answer. It was between 6 and 8 weeks, depending on, how quick people could get information back to us. But unfortunately, COVID has caused significant delays in the courts, with courts often having to be adjourned and sat at another date. And obviously that backs up and then you have months later your applications. So realistically now, it's July 2022. You probably won't have a court date till the autumn and going into the winter. But you don't need to be concerned about that. Because if your next annual return date is approaching, so let's say you delay ARD in December 21, you're concerned now that your court date might not be till December 22, you can add the ARD for 2022 into that as well, ensuring that no late annual return will be submitted. So that's at least something that will keep everyone's, I suppose, a bit comfortable. You don't have to worry about another late annual return. It'll be added to the application. And just as a reminder, the courts do rest in the summer and during the Christmas period as well, so that can sometimes add to the backlog. But once you can add those different ARD dates on, there's no issue. Do the CRO object? So prior to May 2016, they did not object, but now they do object. Not in the cases of illness or bereavement, but in other cases, they will submit a letter of objection and they'll just state their reasons why. If for some reason there's maybe information in that letter of objection that we weren't aware of or that need to be supplemented, we can include a supplementary affidavit into the company records or into the PAC records for the courts, and that will be submitted there as well. You do get that letter of no objection usually a week or so before the notice, so you're given plenty of time just to add any more information into the affidavit if needed. I didn't file my B1 within the time period of the court order. What happens? So just as a reminder, your court order will give you your extension date. And when you file that on CORE, you'll be filing under your old ARD date. It's just the court order will be there as the extension in the background. So if you don't file under within that time period, the company is late. You could try seek another Section 343 application. However, it's very unlikely that this would be successful because you missed the original court order date. Under extreme circumstances, it might be possible, but obviously it would be an additional fee on top of that. Can I apply for this if I've missed 2 annual return dates? So as I said earlier, you can put as many multiple dates on as possible. But when the involuntary strike-off process really kicks back into action, the likelihood is you'll only have 2 annual returns to file on a Section 343 application. Right now, we're often looking at companies from 2018, 2019, 2021, even 22, just because there's been the pause with the involuntary strike-offs. If your company is on strike-off listed, can you make the application? The answer is yes, but obviously a company that's in strike-off listed has a certain time period to get in, either file the B1 or seek the Section 343 application before they're struck off the register. So I would recommend calling the CRO as soon as possible and they can give you an approximate date for the strike-off. With anything like this, once you submit the application to the courts, that will put a pause on any strike-off processes. So once you know the date, you have to kind of go as quick as possible to draft the affidavit, get it signed by the directors, and the application to the courts. The status will remain as strike-off listed until after the court date, whether it's successful or not successful, but you just need to get that application in order to pause for the strike-off. So that is important. What if my application is unsuccessful? So we've looked at if your application is successful, and if it is successful, no late fees. You don't have to do the 2-year auditing. You're just paying the €20 for the annual return, and then if there's additional annual returns. But if your company is unsuccessful, and like I said earlier, we don't have many companies that have been unsuccessful. In the 300 plus that we've done, there's only ever been 2. And we obviously will communicate with the client if we don't think they're going to be successful. But if you are unsuccessful in your court date, you do have to pay the late fees, and you do have to do the 2-year auditing. You do have an option now to appeal it. You can go to the circuit court, and this then can be appealed again, but obviously that would then be a very high price to pay, and it's usually cheaper to go down the audit route in that case. I've missed my 6-month annual return. What happens? So often people will say, we've missed the 6-month annual return. Should we be seeking the Section 343 application? And really, with the 6-month, the best thing to do is to pay the late fees, because the audit isn't required on the 6-month. On the full year one, yes, that's when you should be seeking the likes of the Section 343 application if you have a suitable reason, if someone was ill or there is a bereavement. But on the 6-month, it's often going to be cheaper to actually pay the late fees. I previously saw an application for an extension, but now I've missed another year's annual return. Can I seek another Section 343 application? So you can apply under Section 343 once only in relation to one period. Example, if the company was late in 2019, you got an order and then you were late delivering that order, you cannot seek another application. You can go down the appeal route, but that can be quite expensive. But if the same company was late then in 2020, you can apply. However, you're going to have a very strong reason as to why you were late again. Again, the likes of bereavement and illness, that these things happen. We've had applications like that. We just have to make it clear to the judge that we're aware we were late in 2019, sought the Section 343 and were successful. And unfortunately now, because of XYZ, we've been late in 2020 as well. So the real important thing here with the affidavits is you're just giving as much information as possible and telling a story to the judges as well. How much is the process is kind of the main point that everyone wants to query. The fee for the Section 343 application is $999 plus VAT and outlay, and this includes the solicitors and the barrister fees on top of that as well. The outlay usually works out about €135, depending if there's might be a little bit more if there's supplementary affidavits. The barristers themselves, that's their standard fee, but if for some reason, if there's something in, we'll say, the letter of objection from the CRO that maybe we weren't aware of and a supplementary affidavit has to go in, if there was an adjournment because of a reason we weren't aware of, and we have to apply for another court date, there might be additional fees there. But if for the reason that there was a COVID reason why the application wasn't able to go ahead because there was an adjournment, in that case, there wouldn't be an extra fee. So those are the main processes for the Section 343 application. So if anyone does have any clients who receive those late applications and they have a justified reason, likes of bereavement, illness, changing of agents, please make sure to reach out to us and we can help the company set up the Section 343 application. And while the dates might be a bit longer now, you can at least rest assured that every ARD will be counted in it. So please make sure to reach out to myself. I'm Sinéad Gortland, or anyone in the corporate consultants team, and we'll be able to assist. Thank you.